G'day guys, Jake here with Journey Van Builds. In this video, we're going to take an up-close look at the floor-to-ceiling storage cabinet that I built in my 2009 Toyota Hiace. We'll have a look at a few of the different storage options, nooks and crannies that are in this thing, as well as talk about a couple of the engineering difficulties that a cabinet like this puts forward. So let's get stuck in. First of all, either side in the two largest storage compartments and in this little drawer down here is where I store the vast majority of my clothes. I am a solo traveler, so this is more than enough storage for me. But I basically got shorts and then some winter clothes up here. I'm pretty much wearing all of my winter clothes, which is why that's empty. All of my shirts and singlets, things like that. In the middle, in this super cute little drawer, is socks and undies. Not a massive area, you'd only fit a couple of pairs of jeans in there, but for socks and undies, it just feels absolutely perfect. I spent a lot of time sort of grappling with exactly how deep I could make this thing before it just became impractical. That is, I wanted to squish it as much as I could, so I had more space in the van for the bed. So what I went with in the end was 250 millimeters from the side wall here of the Hiace to the front of this supporting rail, just a little bit over 20 centimeters of storage space. The only way that that's affected me is with my t-shirts. Rather than folding things in half like I usually do, I fold those into thirds to keep them a little bit narrower, and that way everything fits in as you'd like. Looking at the middle here, we have of course the feature piece of the whole cabinet, and that is my hardwood pull down desk. This is a really important feature, not just for this cabinetry, but for the entire van in general. It takes the van from being a deluxe little weekender vehicle and turns it into a genuine option for home office, being able to sustain a longer period of time on the road because it gives you the ability to easily work from anywhere. Whether it's working on your laptop, doing some journaling, reading, playing cards, or eating at night, having a pull down desk that just pops out and is ready to go is really, really practical. And a great thing as well is you don't actually lose any of the storage area behind that. Rather, that storage area does just naturally become your home office, which is another really cool thing about this cabinetry. There are sort of different sections that lend themselves to different storage areas, which just sort of makes sense, which is cool. Really, really cool little space. When I'm sitting here on the road, like parked up at the beach or something, sometimes I just can't believe it. Like, I didn't really plan to sort of be living this life, but as I've been on this road trip and been doing a lot of video editing from my laptop in this little desk here, I'm definitely enjoying it while it's possible. So above the home office here, we have sort of an extra, what feels like a freebie bit of storage, the overhead storage here. Again, it's a separate area that lends itself to having a different type of items stored there, which is great. One thing you may have noticed is that I've pulled that down from the bottom, which may not come naturally at first, but because I'm in a smaller van and I can see into this storage space easily, whether it does open from the bottom or from the top, having it open from the bottom like this is far more practical. It's something I changed since my last van. When you close that from the bottom up, it's just gonna sort of help you push everything up and nothing's gonna fall out on you when you open that up. Feels a little bit weird at first, but having that open top down is much more practical in a smaller van. Alrighty, as we look at the lower areas of this cabinetry, we start to see some of the more creative design elements, which are really cool in making this all functional with this solid rail across the front edge. But that was something that kind of stumped me for a little while. I was sat here looking at the first one of these that I built, just sort of staring, trying to figure out how on earth do you make this functional while you have a rail that your bed is just going to be sitting hard up against half the time, essentially blocking you from using anything. A few things that make this possible are, first of all, as you can see, all the way along the support rail here, there is a gap. That's important, of course, so that the rail of the slide out bed can sit on that unimpeded. So where I do have some cupboard doors, I've just raised them a little bit, and then in the middle here, obviously it's open, so it's not an issue. Other than that, you do just have to accept that where you do have cupboard doors, while your bed is out, you're not gonna have access to those. But with that being said, I have designed this little drawer here to be up the perfect height. You've got about 1 centimeter clearance so that when the bed is out, you can still access this drawer, meaning you can access socks and undies, which is great. Over on the far side here, we have a top opening little cabinet. This is actually quite a large space. It goes right from the top here all the way down to the floor. And I have just used that entire space for my dirty laundry chute, if you will. So it's important to remember any space that you have allowed for your clean clothes. You can imagine at the end of a washing cycle, most, if not all of your clothes are going to be dirty. So it's really practical to have a separate space allocated where you can put those dirty clothes as they pile up. It may sound like a luxury, but if you have the space, to certainly think about factoring that in. I do like the way that it opens from the top down as well. It just sort of creates some variation in the cabinetry. Moving into the middle, we see the elastic bands here crisscrossing. When I designed my first van a few years ago, this was all the rage. There must have been a few really popular vans doing this on Pinterest or Instagram. This space here was quite difficult to design around because you've got the solid rail as well as the wheel arch in there. So you can't put any drawers or normal cupboards in there, aren't quite gonna be that functional. I've got a hammock in there, towels, winter jackets, things like that, that just sort of, you can pull that aside and shove it in and it fits nicely. And all of those things can sort of be shoved in and around the wheel arch as well. So it just allows that space to be used, which we love. Sliding on up here, we have finally the last little cupboard section. For whatever reason, I've decided to bring 6 different types of towels. So this is my towel cupboard and it's completely full, but it's quite a large area and yeah, sort of generic storage area, can be used for whatever, I guess. Lastly, down the bottom here, we have a little shoe cubby hole. This is really important, whether you're building cabinetry or just some space around the door of your camper van. Remember to allow some dedicated space for your shoes. You can guarantee at some point in your trip, your shoes are gonna get wet or dirty or muddy or something, and to be able to have a space where you can just tuck them away and they're not gonna be getting the whole rest of the van dirty is really important. And coming in and out of the van multiple times a day and putting your shoes on and off is just a fact of van life. So you want that process to be as streamlined as possible, especially if there are more than one of you. Having shoes piling up and creating a mess in the van is the last thing you want, because clutter in the van means clutter in your head, and you just want to keep that as clear as possible. Trust me, there are plenty of other things to worry about. So little hidey holes for shoes are a big plus. Onto the side of the cabinetry here, it is basically just a trip to IKEA. Hooks are always really important. You finish your van build and then you go figure out everywhere that you can put hooks, because hooks are your best friend for storage. Running around to the other side of the cabinetry here at the back door, again, I've got a hook, and also I've got this little black circle up the top there, which is actually an extendable and automatically retracting washing line, which hooks onto some hooks that I have put into the tailgate. You're gonna want more hanging space, so especially if there are 2 of you on the road, having some kind of washing line makes things so much easier, hanging wetsuits, bathers, all of that good stuff. While we're looking at the sides of the cabinetry, it's a good time to talk about the method that I've used to put all of this together to achieve a nice tidy finish along the wall of the van there, while keeping the construction as simple and straightforward as possible. The method that I've used basically comes back to using 4 marine ply sheets as the structural walls of the cabinetry that run from the front all the way back to the wall of the Hiace. What that does is, first of all, it gives you a nice slim form factor for your cabinetry. You don't have to build a big bulky frame out of 2x4s or whatever you want to build that frame with. Having marine ply rather than normal ply also allows that timber to remain straight and not have any curves or bow in them for a thinner thickness. So in this case, I've used 12mm thick marine ply, and that's still nice and straight all the way up and down, keeping my cabinetry nice and square, which is important. As far as cutting that into the curves and bumps of the van goes, in my case, I didn't make it easy for myself, because on this side, I haven't framed out the walls of the van with timber, which would make things a little bit more consistent. But what I did do was spent a fair bit of time following all of those curves and ins and outs, and transferred those onto my marine ply walls and took some time cutting those. Trust me, just put a little bit of extra effort into this, and at the end, when you slide those walls in and everything follows perfectly along the wall of your Hiace, it's worth it. You can swap this out for whatever stylization you want to do, but in this case, I've found it really handy because you can use a really thin 6mm board with another 6mm trim all the way around the outside. That gets you your 12mm depth to screw things into while keeping this cupboard door incredibly lightweight. Finally, finishing off the styling of this cabinetry is the little handles here that I've gone for, which are basically just a fake leather strap. Because this is a throughway in the van and it's a small space, I didn't want a physical handle sticking out from the cabinetry because there's every chance walking through here that you'll get hooked on it, you'll bump it while you're asleep, you'll get snagged, whatever it is. So I wanted this to be a really nice flat form, and a nice soft leather handle like this does the job perfectly. In these cases, just having the tab is super minimalist. With the gold little pins in the middle there, it goes great with the dark hardwoods and contrasting with the whites in the van as well. I'm no expert at styling, but as far as a nice simple look goes, I think this looks really good. Guys, that's it for our incredibly in-depth look at the floor-to-ceiling storage cabinetry. If you're interested in any other areas of the van build, check out my other videos on YouTube where I go into heaps of detail and basically talk about how I've tried to extract the most practical use out of every space in this van. As you can tell, I absolutely love this stuff, so if you have any questions, absolutely fire away. I'd love to see if I could help you in any way that I can. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you on the next one.